Hey, good morning. I'm doing a posted video first today because I'm waiting for a delivery to come from my wife. She's very sick and she needs some medicine to help her feel better and hope she'll feel better. Anyhow, let's get it started. Well, we know we're in Iran and we know we've bombed and been bombed and Hezbollah is back in the game and everything else. So what's really going on? The leader, Khomeini, is dead. But like when when the Shah was removed, they didn't know what they were getting. Then they had 48 hostages taken right away almost. So this is just they didn't put Khomeini in power. They put the Shah in power, and he was a waste of humanity. Uh, so was the other guy in Iraq. They put him in power, and look what happened there. Look at Castro. We got help get Castro in, and then what happened? We didn't react fast enough to his request for financial support and recognition, and China did, and screw the U.S. You have to understand, these people go to war to get instant results. You want instant results. There's not going to be instant results in Iran or any place else over there. That's going to be a long-term problem. And like some people have said, it's the old adage, be careful what you wish for, And then you get Hegseth says it's not a regime change. Well, the regime is changing, whether you like it or not. You killed all the leaders. I mean, what the hell do you expect now? Hegseth is not the brightest bulb in the box, trust me. He's a piece of crap, really. But anyhow, here's an interesting one. I think it was Kuwait. 3 American jets were accidentally shot down. Israeli and Hezbollah are back shooting at each other again in Lebanon. So my question here is, if 3 friendly jets get shot down, how the fuck does that happen? Somebody screwed up royally. Was it the pilots, or was it our lovely defense system that we lent to them? I mean, that's just really, really, really scary situation. If I'm not a pilot, I'm not taking off. I don't want to go anywhere near there, because now I don't have to worry about Iran's planes, but I have to worry about our self-defense places. That's just friggin' wonderful. There's just no answers to some of these problems as we go along. Then there was an Austin shooting, 2 dead, 14 women wounded, and they're wondering because the guy had an Iranian flag T-shirt. Did that attack have anything to do with the bombings of Iran? Now, Trump's got his peace board going, and he's already Israel or the United States, one of the two that's involved over there, attacked a school and killed 100. The last count was 138 kids, mostly little girls. So I have no sympathy if they bomb the shit out of that country right now. I have no sympathy whatsoever for them after that. That's just Israel's been committing genocide for a while, and this is which I find extremely disturbing, considering that they were the victims of genocide during World War II, and they didn't learn anything from that. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing, and didn't learn anything about it. So now they're trying to exterminate the Arab population, the Palestinian population. You just never learn, Don't tell me it's God's work, people. God ain't got nothing to do with this, if there is such a thing. And then, while this is all going on, Trump decides to sneak in this little thing about, we're going to deport all the unemployed workers in America. Okay, what do you do when you need them? We won't need them because we'll have AI. That's the problem, you see? And where do you deport them to? they're all American citizens. They're probably, they're Irish. It doesn't make any difference. I don't think they're saying specifically Arabs. They're saying everybody that's unemployed. So where do you deport them? Half of these people don't, the only country they've ever known, that their families have ever known, is America. Trump is a moron. Trump needs to be gone. And the problem that we're having now is he's going to ban the 2026 elections. So there's only one solution left, and I don't want to talk about it because it's not a good solution. It won't solve a lot of problems, but it looks like what's going to happen. It's the only direction Americans are going to have to go because they're not going to be able to do it in the polls. Oh, that's just so stupid, folks. I can't begin to talk about that, all right? Did I talk about the Austin shooting? I told you that story. Yeah. There's a lot of little stories going on inside the big stories. There always is, and it's one of the reasons I miss newspapers, because newspapers used to have these at the bottom of a column. There'd be a space sometimes, because the article wouldn't fit exactly in 2 columns, and they didn't want to give it 4 columns, 4 short columns or something like that, and they didn't want you to have to go to another page, which they do in magazines, which I find very disturbing. Very hard to continue reading that article. So what they would do is they would put these what they called filler articles in. Sometimes you'd learn about counterfeiting. Sometimes you'd learn about something else. And they'd be maybe 1 or 2 inches, of type. And it'd be a story that was interesting, but it was just there just to fill space. And you learn more from, sometimes you could learn more from them in the newspaper than you could from the main articles that were in the newspaper, and I miss that. I miss the ability to be able to do that, But I'm looking at CNN now for probably the last few times because it's going to become Trump TV. And that's another thing, another reason you have to win the 2026 elections, but I don't think they're going to have them. Most of the people here, most of the people that you read here don't think it's going to happen, So, I took a hunk out of my finger yesterday working on this little piece of wood. You go around and you look at stuff like this and you say, how did you cut your hand? Well, I have 3 pairs of cut-proof gloves. But I was sanding it and there was a little nick I wanted to remove, so I got the knife out and for whatever reason the knife caught, slipped, and sliced, I was tired, and I should never handle knives when I'm tired. That's why I'm not doing any carving today. Number one, my finger's being held together by crazy glue now. And that's not a joke. That's how I stopped the bleeding. Crazy glue. And you say you learned that in the Army, dude. When I was in the Army, they hadn't invented crazy glue yet. You stitched it together yourself. That's what you saw. When you look at Rambo, how did he fix his arm? Sewed it together. You still sew it together, but you put surgical glue on top of it to protect the stitches now. So I don't have any needles and threads, and I would enough pain without sewing it together. It's getting a little better every day, but it continues to bleed, and I have to keep changing bandages and stuff like that. So, I don't want to put any more crazy glue on it right now. So, anyhow, Trump is yelling and screaming about the big wave is just yet to come in the war with Iran. Why don't you put billboards up in Iran and tell them what you're doing? He either comes out of nowhere and attacks somebody, and then once he does it, he starts, letting them know what's coming next. What's he think they're going to surrender? These people don't know how to surrender. It's just, if they didn't surrender when Khomeini was killed, they're not going to surrender. All right, Iraq surrendered when they lost their leadership, but he was a real prick. Khomeini is a religious leader. And there's a lot of people all over the world that respect him. in how he's in his teachings and whatnot. So that presents a problem for a lot of, for the American forces over there and what have you. So, I'm still trying to figure out how they shot 3 jets down. And I understand one, something happens, they could shoot the tail by mistake, too close or something to, go dogfight or something like that. But to shoot down 3 planes, they're lucky the pilot's ejected, you know. That's the thing about pilots. They're not into killing the pilots. They're into pilots for history. And during the history of air combat, have never been known to just slaughter pilots. Some have. Some countries have had pilots that do that. Germany was one of them. Japan was another one of them. But they didn't do it as a matter of policy. It was done because one or two guys got pissed off, And it's like Americans. I mean, you think Americans didn't shoot Japanese and German soldiers to death as they were parachuting? Or made sure they were dead because they lost somebody in Pearl Harbor, or some family had been, some relatives of theirs had been killed or imprisoned? That's just, retaliation is what escalates wars, to the to the point where they get no satisfaction out of it. It's where it's just what's going on is stupid. That's when you start doing stuff like that. Oh man. Marijuana advocates are back in Supreme Court. I don't really care that much about it anymore. I did when I was younger and smoking and stuff, and I have no problem doing that, legalizing it, but anything that's going to help them mellow out the country, I don't want to help them do, That sounds stupid, don't you? Don't you think? But that's just, what can I tell you? Oh, and somebody tell me how the boat traffic was stopped by Trump's taking Maduro out of the picture. How did that all stop? Did all the gun traffic and the drug traffic all stop? I don't think so, people. All right, listen. That's going to be it for this video. You can come over to the live side and watch me stagger through this, because I'm telling you, I'm really, really tired. But, because I didn't sleep with this thing last night, okay? I'd show it to you, but I don't want you to throw up, so. All right. So hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.